Chris Cabell, GS-14. So I got a job with the Defense Nuclear Agency, and that was a trip. I irritated them because I was supposed to be doing the final checkoff for security in the building, or in the office that I was working in. And you would think it wouldn't be that big a honking deal, except that everybody left something classified out, and I did not have any kind of a code or anything to get into those files. And so, I called everybody that I could call that was still there in the building, in my area. And finally I thought, I do not want to spend the night here. So I called security. Well, it made for testy reception the next day. And I said, well, A, you had classified information here, and B, nobody told me what to do if I found it. I knew that classified stuff is not supposed to be lying around unguarded. So I got another job, and I went to work for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And that was a kick. That was really interesting. You get to meet everybody. And it was very interesting to see all the correspondence and the documentation that the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all their little directorates had. It was really kind of fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it became very clear to me that I was going to be a GS-12 for the rest of my natural life if I didn't move on. And I didn't want to say anything, but they promoted the two guys that had no college degrees. They'd been there for 25 years, and they knew the collection. Well, I can understand that. But I didn't want to be there for 25 years waiting for GS-13. So when the big boss called me in, because he had heard that I was a feminist, ooh, and he said, I hope you don't get upset about this, but, and I said, well, sir, I am not upset, but I will ask you for a good recommendation if I find a job with a promotion. And he said, well, now you're so impatient. I said, well, you know how it is, sir. They're just people that are picking everything, and that's me, I'm picky. So I ended up in the management intern program with the Office of Secretary of Defense. And that was an eye-opener, because I always thought the OSD was the be-all and the end-all, do-do-do-do, but it isn't. And there were doughheads there, just like there were doughheads every place else, here a doughhead, there a doughhead. Lots of really smart people, which I think is what kept everything moving for me, because in DOD's people know that if there's a regulation or a directive or legislation, that they're supposed to comply with it. When I went to NASA headquarters, they thought it was a hint, a suggestion. And when I first got there, I went to my boss and I said, where's the documentation for this? I need to read the directive and the instructions and the legislation and everything. And Wally just kind of laughed and said, don't worry about it. But NASA was fun too. NASA was interesting and very quasi-military, lots of Air Force at NASA headquarters. And lots of Air Force and all the different, like the Johnson Space Flight Center and the Kennedy Space Flight Center and so on. So that was very interesting. But I did not get to see the shuttle go off, because NASA had their own little clinic downstairs, and once a year they looked at you, and they found that I had strep throat. And they said, go home. Here's some antibiotics. And I thought, well, hell, I'm going to miss the shuttle launch, because they had this little auditorium there with this monster screen, And they were planning to film the whole thing when the first space shuttle took off. And I didn't get to see it. I had to look at it at the regular pooey TV. But I did fall madly in love with the pilot of the shuttle. I thought, well, actually both of those guys were handsome dogs. And I have no shame. What can I say?